Greetings and good day. This is Donnie with Tech Winter. Thank you so much for joining me today. Guys, it's hard to believe, but I've had a Ring alarm now for 2 years. So we're going to take a close look at, what's been great about that, what's been a challenge, and how do I see the future of Ring alarm. So guys, without any further ado, let's dive in and let's take a look. So it was just 2 years ago when I moved into my current home and I was making a decision about what was going to be my security system for this new home. The home already had an older system, and when I say older, I'm talking 80s. It was old. Ring Alarm does have a retro kit, but I decided rather than just trying to shoehorn in Ring to work with some really ancient tech, it was time to just do a clean slate and go with Ring. So I went with the Ring Alarm 8-pack, which at the time came with 2 motion sensors, 3 door sensors, a base station, a keypad, and also an extender. And actually looking at some of the newer versions of this, they don't sell it exactly like this anymore. Typically it's like 1 motion sensor and like 4 of the door/window sensors. I don't like that because for me, that 3-2 ratio was actually absolutely perfect for me. So thinking back to the installation itself, guys, it was incredibly easy to accomplish, especially when we're talking about the door sensors and the motion sensors as well. So the door sensors, I just used the double-sided 3M tape that was included in the package to actually stick them to the door frame and to the door itself. I've seen this where people put it on like the side of the door frame. Some people put it on the top. I prefer the top. It's just a little bit higher, a little bit out of sight, a little bit out of mind. Aesthetically, it just seemed to fit a little bit better for me having it there at the top. And then for the motion sensors, I did actually use screws to attach those to the wall, but I could have used the double-sided 3M tape there as well. In the cases of the motion sensors, they were actually located where my old system had motion sensors that were wired in. So I did have some work there that I needed to do to get those off the wall and just get that old wiring cleaned up and a little bit out of sight and out of mind. So the cool thing about the base station is you can really put it anywhere in your home. It works off of Wi-Fi. So it just needs to have a decent wireless signal to it, and then it needs to have power to it. So for me, I wanted that clean look. So I did put it as close as I could to a power outlet, and then did it the best I could to use some of the empty space that was inside of it to actually tuck as much of that cabling in there as I could. And as you can see here, I've got a little bit of Velcro over the top there that's just kind of hiding some of that cable management. You might try something else there, but for me, it just made it a nice clean look for the actual alarm base station. So taking a look here at the keypad, I actually was able to repurpose some of the low voltage wiring of where the old system keypad was located to actually keep this one charged. And I will put a link in the description to a YouTube video I found of someone who had done this before, and then he also had a part that he recommended that he has on his YouTube channel. I didn't follow exactly the way that he installed it. I feel like I did a little bit more of an effective job of hiding some of the charging cables. You can't see the charging cable at all on my keypad. On his, you could. But the nice thing about repurposing some of that old low voltage is this keypad always stays charged. Ring does say if you use the keypad on battery only, it's supposed to last anywhere from like 6 to 8 months. But for me, I've never had to take it off the wall. I've never had to do anything because it continues to just stay trickle charged and completely topped off all the time. Another thing worth noting is that all of these door sensors and motion sensors also work off of battery. And guys, 2 years in, I haven't had to change any of the batteries in any of those sensors. And from looking around in the Ring community and other people who have talked about their battery life on their sensors, this seems to be very consistent. Most people say that typically it's around that 3-year mark where they'll start getting alerts in the Ring app that it's time to change the batteries. Now this is a good point in time to mention that I do have the first generation of the Ring alarm. There is a second gen that is now available. They have totally redesigned the sensors, the contact sensors, and also the motion sensors that are a little bit smaller, a little bit sleeker design. But guys, I don't have any complaints about this first generation. As far as the technology is concerned, it's exactly the same with the second generation. It just looks a little bit different. The one thing I do wish that I had from that second generation is the keypad itself. I mean, as you can see from my first generation keypad here, it has this round design as far as the buttons for like setting it to either disarm, to home, or away. That is very inconsistent with everywhere else in Ring as far as like looking in the app or even at that second generation keypad where they've aligned those buttons to where the experience that you see inside the app and the experience that you see on the keypad itself are exactly the same. It's not like that on the first generation. Guys, I'm used to it just because it's the way that this keypad has always looked, but I really do love the steps that they took with that second generation keypad. And that's something I would like to add. It's a nice to have, but definitely not something that I need to have. And speaking of Keypad, it's one of those things that I use some of the time, but I don't use all of the time. In most cases, I found myself either using the app or using an Alexa command. It's worth mentioning here as well that when I first got this Ring alarm system, the Ring Protect plan that Ring offered at the time supported 24/7, 365 monitoring for only $10 a month or $100 a year. If you were to get a Ring alarm system for the first time today, to get that same type of coverage, you'd be looking at $20 a month or $200 a year. Now for me, Ring says that I am grandfathered into that rate of $10 a month or $100 because I just pay the $100 up front for the entire year through the year 2025. So I'm happy that I have that, but I'm a little bit sad that it's going to be going away in the future. One thing worth noting is that those Protect plans do cover as many cameras as you'd like to add to your Ring fleet as possible. I do have 6 cameras that I've added, and if I were to add any more, as far as that recording is concerned that they do, it's completely covered underneath that plan. You don't have to pay more every time you add new cameras to that plan. I'm not going to do it on the video, but guys, I got to tell you that Siren is loud. It definitely gets your attention if it ever does go off. And one of the things that I do like about that Siren is that you can also link it to your cameras as well, so that if the alarm ever does get triggered, the base station starts sirening, the keypad starts sirening, but also any cameras that you have linked to it, besides a doorbell, because I don't think the doorbell supports it, but every other camera that I have in my fleet does support it. So all 5 of my other cameras will also start blasting a siren sound. Ring also does have another accessory for an outdoor siren that I have not taken advantage of, but it might be something that you would like to consider as well. And from a connectivity perspective, just something to be mindful of, these Ring alarm systems use Z-Wave technology. Z-Wave is radio, just like Wi-Fi, just like cellular signals, just like FM radio or even TV broadcasts, but it works on a spectrum to where it can throw a lower amount of data a longer distance than something like Wi-Fi can do. I do like that the Ring alarm package did come with a Z-Wave repeater that I do have plugged into the wall that really helps the door that was the furthest from the base station from getting just a kind of a low signal to a perfect signal, me never getting any type of warning messages about it running low. The Ring alarm base station also does include backup battery and cellular backup, which have both come in handy when I've had power outages for short amounts of time. The nice thing about all the sensors are, since they're battery powered, even that repeater itself does have a battery backup in it. I did not lose any type of security protection that the Ring alarm offers. My Ring alarm base station does work on the AT&T wireless network. So in my case, I have AT&T fiber at home, and then having that as like the AT&T wireless, we did have a major AT&T outage in my area about a year ago. And there was an amount of time there where my alarm system was not connected to Ring. So if there had been something that had happened, there had been a break-in that happened in my house, something like that, the sirens would have gone off, but there would not have been that signal that goes out to the alarm monitoring company to basically alert the authorities, alert the police that somebody's broken into my house. So some risk there, I would say very minimum risk. There's got to be a lot of things that go wrong because both my home internet was down and also that cellular backup was down. So that is a very edge case, but guys, it could happen. So I do want to just point that out as a potential risk. But the reality is that would be a risk with most alarm systems that are on a cellular backup anyway. I mean, if there had been some major cellular outage across your region, you would have been assuming that risk regardless of whether it was Ring or somebody else. So I don't necessarily ding Ring for that, but it's just something to be mindful of. So guys, the big question, I'm 2 years into this. If I were to start over today, there's other options that are out there. ADT is trying to get more competitive in the DIY space. Simply Safe is another big player that's there. Would I go with something like the Ring Alarm Gen 2 or even that Ring Alarm Pro product that's out now? What would I have done in that space if I were making that decision today? For me, guys, I would totally be going with the Ring Alarm Gen 2. Absolutely love it. If I ever do get in a situation where one of my sensors fails, or even I want to go ahead and replace that keypad, the nice thing is I can mix and match those second generation products to still work with my first generation Ring base station. It's basically the same base station they're selling with the second gen one. So I like that all those parts are still interchangeable. And for me, the Ring Alarm Pro, as much as I like that it does have that local SD storage for the Ring Edge technology, which I'll put a link in the description about if you want to learn a little bit about that, you can actually store your Ring video recordings locally, not to the cloud, not to somebody else's computer. You can store them locally on that base station. It's a cool feature, And also, they've got the Eero technology built in so that it also becomes basically your first Wi-Fi base station that you can use to send wireless signal throughout your house. It becomes basically your new Wi-Fi network. I already have a very built-out wireless mesh network using Google Wi-Fi, so for me, that's not really something that would add value. But for some of you guys, it may absolutely. And if that is something that would add value to you, I would totally recommend Ring Alarm Pro. Also have a video about that I'll put a link in the description as well. But guys, 2 years in, happy Ring customer. I have no regrets. Love Ring Alarm. And guys, I'm hoping that this model continues to serve me well for a long time into the future. So guys, that's it for now. Tell me about your experience. Are you a Ring Alarm customer right now? What has the experience been like for you? Have you had any pain points? Maybe they've been similar to mine. Maybe they've been others. And guys, thank you so much for liking and subscribing and hitting that bell notification. Your support continues to help this channel grow. And your feedback also helps me understand what I can be doing to help add value to your technology world and help you make winning decisions when it comes to tech. So guys, that's it for now. I'm Donnie with Tech Winner. Thank you so much for joining me today. You guys have a great day.